Hello, YouTube. This is just another guy talking about stuff, and I'm here with Referee Odie Brown, founder of
Hello.
Zebra Talk. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
No, this is great. Like I was telling you before, I hit the record button. Referees really don't get to tell their story too often, so
Absolutely.
this is something for the referees to get out there and get a little time in front of the camera for once.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, everybody's got a story, and everybody's got probably a pretty unique story if it led to them being involved in pro wrestling.
Right,
So
pro wrestling is definitely an interesting thing to be involved in, I'm sure. Now, how long have you been in the wrestling business, as they say?
I'm just about halfway through my 6th year involved. So I'm coming up on my 7th anniversary. I started in the middle of the summer on July 1st. So yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, when did you first become a fan of professional wrestling? Like, what got you interested in the first place, even to watch it?
I remember when I was a little kid, we all get asked these questions a lot, right? So we've got like the pre-programmed packaged answer. Like, all right, how long is this conversation? Am I going to give the big answer or the short?
Give whatever answer you feel like. If I give you the go home, then
hey brother, you've been talking for 45 minutes. I don't really know how long you want to go for this. Do you have a time limit?
No, it's pretty free and open. That's the nice thing about not having any time constraints. So
yeah, right.
I'm in no hurry.
To answer your question, when I was a kid, I was hanging out at a friend's house, and we were just kind of flipping through channels, and I saw a wrestler making their entrance, and I had never heard of it before. I had never seen any of it before, but I remember it like super vividly in my head. I heard the music, I saw the lights, he was doing his entrance and everything, and yeah, the very first thing I ever saw of wrestling was X-Pac making his entrance.
That's a great entrance.
And the fireworks were going off, and I was just like 8 years old, just like, what is this?
Yeah, so I guess I got to ask. Obviously you're watching X-Pac then. So what year do you think it was?
It was just before Survivor Series of '99. I remember very distinctly the first storyline that I ever watched was who ran over Stone Cold with the car.
So we're like right in the middle of the Attitude Era then.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the Attitude Era is like as hot and heavy as it's gonna get. And it's about to like turn into the Invasion angle. They're about to buy WCW and ECW, and like that's kind of my like childhood right there from like 99 to like 2003. And then of course, like a lot of us, I had some things go on where like I couldn't watch anymore. My parents, weren't super stoked about wrestling because I wanted to get involved in wrestling. They were like, no, we're going to pack up all your stuff and throw it away and ban from watching it ever again.
Yeah, forced or not, I feel like a lot of people have that kind of story where they go away from it as, watching it from a kid to a young adult to
yeah.
to
I've definitely found with the people that I talk to, like, fans or wrestling people themselves, or even just like normal people, like pretty much everybody, at least in the States, has watched wrestling at some point. And then usually they end up like right around like middle school, they discover like dating or, whatever their like hobby is or whatever. And they either stay involved in wrestling and they get really involved in wrestling, or they just go away. And most of the time they don't come back. But we're seeing a big resurgence of people coming back lately, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I always think wrestling is always built around its stars. So whenever wrestling has a big star, you see more mainstream appeal, and you see a bigger audience. But that time growing up, like we're obviously have a bit of an age difference. I was a Hogan era kid.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I mean that was a great time to come. That was a great time to come up through wrestling. Was that late '90s, early 2000s? It was just huge. You had the Monday Night Wars. There was a lot of access to wrestling, a lot of access to good wrestling.
Absolutely, dude. My sister and I used to sit in. Yeah, my sister and I used to sit in 2 separate rooms on Monday nights, and like I would watch one TV and she'd be watching, like WWF or WCW, and whenever something like crazy was going on, we were like, get in here.
Those were the times, and we're getting some of that now again with with the way that the two companies are kind of competing against each other. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's not even really just a two company thing anymore. Like, they're legitimate contenders, like pretty
100%.
much all over the country and like even all over the planet to an extent. Like New Japan, I would argue, is like
Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm just talking about the
big
cable
as
the cable
AEW,
wars.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're talking about the cable wars, but yeah, 100%. Like there, it's a great time to be in wrestling and a wrestling fan, just because the volume of it is incredible.
absolutely.
Thanks.
When did you get involved? How did you get involved?
Well, I got involved in 2003.
Cool.
Actually 2004 technically. I got a job working in a high school. Uh,
Mm,
One of the football coaches was a professional wrestler. He was running a
nice.
promotion up in Vermont, and I just kind of like I was a big wrestling fan at the time. Around I graduated college in 2002, so it was the tail end of the Attitude Era, the Invasion
Sure.
angle was starting to happen, and I was a big wrestling fan, and he was running a promotion, a little small indie wrestling promotion up in Vermont, and I said, hey, how about me reffing? And he said, yeah, great. And Tony DeVito had a school down in Newburgh, which is about 45 minutes away. So I got to go down there and train for, a few months and got thrown in the ring, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like you find your your foot in the door, and then you just kind of get shoved in the door, and you're in it for the rest of your life.
Right, which is, you set up a great segue for me then. How did you get your foot in the door? How did you get started?
So I am not ashamed to admit, like some of our coworkers and peers, I actually started in backyard wrestling, but I started by accident. I went to an autograph signing with my girlfriend at the time, and I was trying to like get her more interested in wrestling. And she was a big Miz fan from like the Real World New York and all that stuff. So we went to an autograph signing for him. And behind me in line was this guy that I knew from high school that I used to go to like underground punk rock shows with him and stuff. And I hadn't seen him in like 10 years, but he was literally just standing right behind me. I was just like, Gabe, what are you doing here? And he tells me about how he's like wrestling on this show in San Jose and I should come check it out. And here's the address, here's the date, come through, whatever. I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just going to be like a normal show. And then when I roll up to the address, it is literally a house. It's like at the end of a cul-de-sac, and I roll up and I'm like, there's no way that I'm in the right place. This is just the normal neighborhood. And then like I roll down my window just to see if I could hear people, and I hear the bumps in the ring and I hear the people shouting and all of that stuff. And yeah, I go in. Yeah, there was just a rinky-dink ring that kind of resembled a half pipe. It was a real ring, but it had just been back there a long time, and they had never replaced anything.
So everything was just warped.
Yeah.
Not a great bump.
And I went to go watch, and there was no referee. They just had the wrestlers like trading the referee shirt after their match was over. And I didn't know any better than to not, open my mouth around people at the time yet. So I just kind of started like cracking jokes about it because I didn't care. And the promoter, who is still a very good friend of mine, and I give him 100% all the credit in the world for any time that I've spent in wrestling, because like he heard me. His name's Anthony Trevino. He goes by Slash. The company is still around, and they actually have legitimized their company. They started booking like venues. They got a real ring, or not a real ring, but like a new ring.
A better ring.
They already had a real ring. They just had a broken, old, crappy ring.
They got a ring they got a ring that wouldn't scare people away. Yeah.
Yeah. And they started using like trained wrestlers and stuff like that. But anyway, he heard me like talking trash and took the referee shirt and literally just threw it at me and was like, if you think you're so smart and so cool, why don't you go do it? And I was a theater kid at the time. I had been in acting classes pretty much my whole life. And I was like, okay, I can go pretend to be a referee for 5 minutes. Sure. And I went and I did it. And they asked me to like work the rest of the show. And I went into the house after we were done, which was like the locker room. And they were like, hey, you don't suck. Can you come back?
It's a great way to get a start. Yeah, I think a lot of us referees got to start like, hey, yeah, you don't suck. Come on back.
Right.
Yeah, I think that happens in the legitimate circuit as well as
Yeah. I
Not
didn't
that
realize how
great.
low the bar was when I first started. So I was just like, there's no way that I'm actually good at this. They're just desperate. And I wasn't good at it, but you know, for a backyard wrestling company that had literally their wrestlers reffing the matches, I was good enough.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Um,
yeah, looking back at my first show, I was nowhere near what I know today, or probably
yeah,
even ready to do anything that I could even think
absolutely.
about as refereeing. But it was good enough.
Luckily, eventually, after like a year and some change of working there, are you familiar with Sparky Ballard? Have you ever heard of him? Heard his name or
No,
anything?
no, I don't think so.
He's like our Northern California's Rick Knox. He's been around forever. He works everywhere. Everybody respects the hell out of him. He's got like a crazy amount of drive. Like he owned a school for a while and a promotion. He owned like 4 rings at once and had a ring crew that he was renting the rings out to like every promotion in Northern California and Central California for like 3 years. It was
Yeah,
insane.
that's a way to.
Um,
That's a great way to get contacts too. Is
right?
getting on the ring crew.
Uh, he just showed up at the show one day and was just kind of there to like, you know, have a few drinks and like make fun of the backyard wrestlers basically. And they told me like, that's Sparky Ballard. He's the best referee in California. You need to go pick his brain. And I was like, okay. Every podcast I had ever listened to was, you know, constantly telling you like, ask advice, ask advice. And so I went up and I talked to him, and he gave me some really good tips on like how to be better as a referee, and told me that if I wanted to be a legitimate, you know, like member of the pro wrestling community, I needed to go to a school. And he told me about, I was living in Oakland at the time, and Hood Slam is like
Okay.
the biggest promotion in Oakland, and you know, one of the top promotions in the Bay Area. And they have a school, and the rest is history. I showed up. I went to a show in November of 2013, and by July of 2014, I started training. I was just like, "Yep,
I'm
let's
I'm in,
go."
I'm in on this. Yeah.
100%. I
Great.
dove in completely head first. Training 4 days a week, shows 3 days a weekend. You know, just up and down the West Coast. Like the minute that I set foot into this, um, I always was telling myself, I'm going to go back to acting. I'm going to go back to acting. This isn't going to work out. I'm not really going to be that good at this, but I want to try it and have some fun. Oh, I'm 25. If by 30 I can be like on WWE's radar, maybe I'll keep going or something. You know, I gave myself like a little 5-year span. I was
Yeah.
like, there's no way I could actually accomplish that, but let's see if I can do it. Um, and it worked out really well.
Yeah. That's that's a great story. So yeah, tell me and the audience some of your experiences training with it Slam. Like what was training like
Um,
for you?
I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was really hard, but it was, in my opinion, some of the best like training I could have gotten. I've trained with a couple of different schools, like around the country and in the Bay Area, and I think everybody has things that they're good at and things that maybe they are lacking. And the trainers that they have there, the Mel Brothers, Dustin and Derek, I feel like they're really, really good at making a person who can go out into the wrestling world. You know what I mean? Like they don't like their drawback is they don't make you do like crazy cardio or bodybuilding or anything like that. They expect you to do that on your own time. But like they're in the ring with you. They're teaching you hands-on the entire time. Like look at who their like graduates are. You know, like Shotzi Blackheart came from their school. Mansoor, the guy that you know won the Saudi Arabia Greatest Battle Royal and now is on you know NXT 205 Live, like that whole thing. Like he came from there as well. Um, I came from there. uh,
So they know what they're
um,
doing.
yeah, like they're really, really, really good at teaching people how to like understand wrestling from like a very practical perspective, whereas like some people will teach you how to work out, some people will teach you really good grappling or really good technique, or they'll teach you how to be a really good character or whatever it is, but like they were really good at taking somebody and figuring out what would make how to make them put their best foot forward in the wrestling world. You know what I mean?
Try to get the best out of somebody, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, enjoyed my time there.
Yes. Okay. So, barring the the short stint in the backyard, what would you say your first? I was gonna say, tell me about your first match.
My first like actual paid show was maybe like 3 months after training, or after I started training. I didn't like only go to training for like 3 months.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. But no, after about 3 months, I got booked on a show, and I had no idea what to expect, because like the only show that I had ever been to live before I started reffing was 2002 Unforgiven. Like I went to a big WWE pay-per-view, so like I had no frame of reference for what like independent wrestling was going to be like. I went from a pay-per-view to a backyard to a hood slam. So I was like, I don't know what I'm getting into, but it's going to be fun.
That's a big spectrum of experience. So yeah.
Right. But it was for a guy named Alexis Derevko, who is a longtime vet of the Northern California area. He has kind of like, a evil Russian wolf gimmick. He's a big burly guy, and he had a company called Action Coast Empire. And he asked me to come and ref for him, and I split the card with my very, very good friend, Jeremy Marcus. He was the first referee friend that I made, and my first friend that I made outside of like my own school.
Right.
So we split the card. I reffed Leon Akuza versus Buddy Royal as my very first match, like on a legitimate show.
Right.
And it was like Leon is like 5'4" and a luchador, and kind of has like a angry Pikachu gimmick. And
that's an interesting combination,
right? Do you know who Levi Shapiro is?
That name sounds really familiar.
He's really, really good, and he's been around for a good long while now, and he's kind of blown up a little bit right now.
Yeah,
if you watch Championship Wrestling from Hollywood at all, he's our new television champion. He just won it within the last couple of weeks.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm a little bit behind on things sometimes when it comes to wrestling.
A lot of content all over the
that's the point. There's just so much to keep up with. It's hard, especially on that side of the coast.
Before he was a singles wrestler, he was in a very, very, very good tag team called the Classic Connection that were basically the Revival before the Revival were a thing. But that's not really like to say that the Revival ripped anybody off, because we came to find out once we started traveling across the country that like there's like 4 tag teams on the indies that existed before the Revival that all have that same gimmick with like the sequin jackets, and they basically wrestle like the Four Horsemen.
I mean, there's only so many ideas, right?
Exactly. Like nobody ripped anybody off. It just was a natural thought. But yeah, so Buddy Royal was his tag team partner, and is an absolutely fantastic wrestler. He was one of the 4 original people that were recruited to the New Japan camp, new dojo that they have in LA.
That's awesome.
So anyway, that was my first match. It went fine. I've had like mistakes happen in matches, but like it didn't really happen for a while. But when it did, it was terrifying.
That's always that's scary. And actually, without embarrassing, let me ask you, what's the biggest mistake you made?
There is a match.
What's the one that you just got that get stabbed you in the heart? Because I've had that experience and it's not fun.
So All Pro Wrestling. You ever heard of it? No. It's if you ever watch Beyond the Mat. You ever seen Beyond the Mat?
Yeah, I remember that.
So you know how like they interviewed like Jake the Snake and Mankind and like a couple other people, but they also did like some indie wrestling too.
Right.
All Pro Wrestling is the company that they interviewed for the indie wrestling portion of it.
Gotcha.
It's a company in like the Hayward, San Francisco, like Oakland, Daly City area. They kind of move around. But anyway, they're like the king of Northern California pro wrestling. They've been around since the 90s. Like they're a big deal. I had aspired to work there for a long time, And eventually I finally like earned a chance to, you know, get my foot in the door and get an opportunity and everything went great. And I worked there for like 8 months, I think. And then there was a match between one of their big guys. He wasn't holding a title. So, you know, title change.
The ramifications weren't that bad.
Yeah. I'm sure you can see where this is going. He faced another very good wrestler. I mean, this isn't really that big of a deal. JR Kratos versus Funny Bone. Funny Bone was there for his first night, and Kratos was supposed to beat him, and yeah, he didn't.
Something happened.
It was my fault. It was my fault real bad. And unfortunately, like, I had it drilled into my head over and over again. If you hit 3, it's 3. That's it. You have to stand by your 3. So I hit it, and I thought I was right, and I got up, and I was panicking as I was doing it, and I was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? This is a mistake." And I went to go ring the bell. And I, you know, go to check on Kratos, and I'm like, "Hey, brother, I'm so sorry." And I get to the back, and the promoter, rightfully so, tears me apart. Because everybody in the back, it was the semi-main event. Everybody in the back was watching the match. Kratos was like a former like all pro wrestling champion, like multiple time champion. It was Funny Bone's first night at the company. It was
not the direction that they were looking for, but
no, it was bad. Yeah. So that unfortunately was my reason for being asked not to come back for a number of years. But thankfully, I, you know, didn't let that hold me back or hold me down, and I kept hitting the road and going out everywhere that I could, and eventually I made enough of an impression elsewhere that the promoter, Marcus Mack, warmed back up to me. And, you know, we even had like a really nice, like kind of personal conversation where he was like, "I thought you were a terrible, awful referee, but you just made a mistake, so come on back."
That's great. See, it's a good redemption story.
Right.
So, let's do a little time travel now. You get to go back, talk to yourself before your first match. What's the advice you give yourself?
Start eating right and start working out further. Seriously, like there's a lot of things that I could tell myself that like I could have learned earlier than I did. But I learned those things eventually, and I learned them in a way that I think I probably, you know, I consider myself very lucky in my career. I think that I was in the right place at the right time around the right people many times. Much of my career is like meeting Sparky or getting the referee shirt thrown at me. It was all very coincidental, and I just was prepared enough and professional enough and like confident but humble enough that like I got the opportunities and got to run with them. But I think the one big thing that has held me back more than anything during my time in wrestling has been my own personal physique. So
well, it's funny you say that, because I don't think that's something that referees even thought about even when I was first starting.
Sure.
So yeah, it's funny for you to say that, but yeah, you look at a lot of referees now, and you know, on TV, and a lot of them are former wrestlers, so they all look great.
Absolutely.
So it kind of pushes us a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, not you. You jacked
well,
to the
you know, a lot of this is work. A lot of this is, you know.
But yeah, so like if there was anything that I would have told myself when I first started, it would be like, hey, get in shape now. Because like my goals when I started, like day one, were I want to see if I can get to NXT. And you're not going to get on NXT if you're not in a decent amount of shape. And like I'm okay now, but like when I had first started getting in, I hadn't seen a gym in, I don't know, like 6 years since I got out of college. Like I was.
I mean, if you go back and look at pictures of me too, like I wasn't never in the best of shape up until maybe like 5 years ago. I started working out again, and Yeah, and it helps in the ring too. I think a lot of people don't realize how much work we actually do running around in that ring. It does
That's
bulk
the
up a bit.
It's true, but I think that was kind of one of the big drawbacks for me when it came to my personal fitness was like I was always capable of keeping up in the ring. I've never been too blown up to ref, no matter what. I've done like I haven't done an hour yet, or I've done an hour in training, but like on an actual show, the longest I've done is like 35 minutes. But anyway, the point I'm getting at is like I've done, Iron Ref just like everybody else has, like whatever, and I've never felt like my fitness couldn't keep up with that. So that was always kind of a crutch that I leaned on, like, oh well, I'm in good enough shape that I can ref as much as I need to. So why do I have to worry too much about like this, that, or the other thing? Anyway.
Yeah, that's good. So this actually leads into another point. What do you find most challenging about being a referee, either in or out of the ring?
I think that the most challenging thing for referees is the initial beginning, and then getting yourself out there. Our whole job is to not promote ourselves, but we have to promote ourselves because nobody else is going to try and get us booked, right? And then in addition to that, like, I'm sure it was probably the same for you, maybe not, but the majority of the people that I've talked to that are referees or were referees never had a trainer. They never had a referee that was present to teach them how to referee. All of us were just taught how to bump and wrestle by wrestlers, and then they give us the best idea of what they think refereeing should be like and wait for us to screw up, and then they just tell us what we did when we screwed up, as opposed to like actually having an actual like referee in-house there to teach us how to do it properly from go.
Yeah. So I think this will actually lead in. You're doing great with my segues, man. You're
Thanks.
you're making it easy. Because I think this will lead into Zebra Talk.
I've done this before.
Shh. You're not supposed to tell people that. It's your first interview. You're nailing it.
Funny story. I actually may or may not have a few episodes recorded of a Zebra Talk podcast.
Segue. See, so good. Yeah. So speaking of referees training each other, you started Zebra Talk. Tell me, what was your idea about founding Zebra Talk, and what made you start that? What prompted that?
So this is going to be like a recurring thing for me that I keep kind of coming back to throughout this interview. Is like coincidence and like timing and just willingness basically to like do the work, because what it initially was, it was just dumb luck, man. It was such dumb luck. I have a couple of other groups that I've made on Facebook, and like they're not anything like that, but I had made them. Like there's one that I have for like my friends that are into comic books and stuff like that. It's called Comic Talk. But like it's super dormant. There's like, I don't know, 27 people in there, and every once in a while we share the trailer for like a video game or a movie or something. But anyway, what made me want to do it was I realized that I knew who the referees in California and Arizona and Vegas were, and that was it. And I wanted to know who out there, who else is a referee out there. I wanted to know how many there were, what kind of competition there is for jobs. Can I learn from these people? Like, I just wanted to see, like, okay, if there's, like, say 10,000 people that are involved in pro wrestling as far as, like, actual wrestlers and managers and whatever, right? How many of those people are referees? So I just sat on my bed one night on a whim, just literally like 5 minutes notice and preparation. I was just like, I'm going to make a group real quick. Called it Zebra Talk. Looked up the little thing that we have on the top of it that's eat, sleep, ref, and I just created a group, and I invited everybody that I knew that was a ref in there, and I was just like, hey, anybody that that is a referee is welcome in this group. Anybody that has been a referee is training to be a referee, even if they haven't been one in 20 years, even if they've only been one once. I just want everybody who's put on the stripes and been in the ring in front of a crowd to be welcome in this group, and I want us to be able to like learn from each other and help each other grow, because there's no trainers around, right? So like, how are we going to figure out how to get any better if we don't have anybody to talk to about it? So then I knew like 20 referees at that point, and I invited all of them. By the next day, there were 300 people in the group, and I was like, whoa, okay, hold on a minute.
Kind of blow it up a little bit.
A little.
How many is the group up to now?
943, something like that.
From all around the world too, right?
Yes.
I know from Europe.
We have referees on literally every continent where people live. There are referees from Africa, Australia, Europe, the continents, but yeah, they're
all the continents.
The thing that like really like put the pin on it for me, that made me feel like I had really accomplished something, was when we had a South African referee join the group. I was just like, man, this is insane.
From all over the place.
Yeah, like to have people from Mexico or Canada or Japan or the UK, like that's cool. But like those are really like hot and heavy, like active wrestling places. But like now we have people from Malaysia, we have people from Chile, we have people from South Africa. We've got people from all over Australia, New Zealand, Germany, Finland, like Sweden, all over. Everywhere that there's wrestling, we have at least one representative in Zebra Talk.
It's a pretty cool thing. And I thank you for
really proud of it. I don't know.
I thank you for starting it. Yeah, I don't blame you, man. It was a really cool thing. It's a really cool thing to be a part of. I'm happy to be a part of it. It's great for networking. It's great for networking. It's great for guys asking advice. It's a really cool resource for, I think, a lot of referees out there to check out. And if any referees listening to this aren't on it, you need to get in touch with somebody and get on the Facebook group.
It's actually not hard at all. I've never actually said this publicly, but every single person is welcome in there. All you have to do is go onto Facebook, search Zebra Talk. You can request to add yourself into it, and then I personally review every single person who's added into the group. I go into their profile, I make sure it's not a bot, I make sure it's not anybody who's gonna like spread any kind of like hateful messages or anything. And then what you do in there is up to you. I try my best not to like police people or anything like that, but like there's members from literally every company. We have almost the entire WWE ref roster is present in there, and they're active in there. WWE, NXT, Impact, AEW, ROH, like New Japan, everybody is in there.
That's cool too.
So like that's really cool, and it's nice to like be accessible to those people and pick their brains and stuff like that and use that for networking. But then sometimes people don't give the best impression of themselves on there, and they end up shooting themselves in the foot.
I think what you find is not everyone is as professional as you can be, and not everyone in wrestling takes it as professional as they should, because and that depends on a lot of different factors, but
or they don't know that they should yet, and that goes back to what we were saying about a trainer.
About training.
Like I had really, really good trainers that taught me how to be a good part of wrestling. They did not teach me locker room etiquette. They did not teach me like politics or ethics or anything like that about wrestling, because it didn't bother them. They didn't care about it really. They are doing their own thing at Hood Slam,
Right. So when you have to go into a different locker room, you're just used to what you're used to, and maybe might not pick up on some of the things.
Luckily, really early on, when people ask me who trained me, I have like two answers, honestly, because like I was at Hood Slam for about a year and then I left, and I actually only ever worked one Hood Slam show. I was working everywhere else. When I left, I started working for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I was still living in the Bay Area, but I was like driving in the car with, Levi and Buddy, and there was a photographer, his name is Devin Chen, and we would just go up and down and up and down, and it's like a 6-hour drive, like every 2 weeks. And so when people ask who trained me, I like to tell them, like I was trained initially by the Mel Brothers, but then I was trained for television by David Marquez and Nick Bonanno, who I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he's an absolutely fantastic referee. I apologize about the door. My girlfriend was coming.
That's okay.
And I texted her and told her about the podcast, and she graciously came in and literally just sat here for like the last 10 minutes silently.
Well, we appreciate that. We're almost done. So
she actually just left to her other job.
No,
so
we got 3 more hours. No.
As much time as we want.
Now, just probably actually one last question, major question I have for you is what do you see in your future?
Man, if you had asked me a year ago.
Well, yes, that's true. A lot of people have had to make some changes, but
2019 and the beginning of 2020 was the absolute best year I've ever had in professional wrestling. I toured all over the United States. I worked in Chicago and New York and Florida and Louisiana and New Orleans, and I went up to Canada for Impact, and I had made a goal list for myself, and it seemed like every week I was just crossing stuff off, which is not to, say like I'm any better than anybody else. I just was willing to put myself out there. And luckily through Zebra Talk, I had made enough connections with people like yourself and other folks that were very hospitable and gracious enough to welcome me into their homes, like Sam Meadowwood and Jeremy Talerma over at Freelance, people like that, or Chris Levin, over in New England, helped me get involved with GCW. And I just got really, really, really lucky again, as I'm saying,
give yourself some credit. Cause I think everyone's career has a little bit of luck in it, but you putting yourself out there is a big part of it, right?
I worked really, really hard, and I traveled a whole lot of miles on my dollar. And I got a little bit of luck and a lot of help from some people. And thankfully, I was given the opportunity last year. I worked for basically a who's who of the best wrestling in independence. I was working for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Game Changer, Evolve towards the end of the year, and then Bar Wrestling before that, imploded, obviously, and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, which has been the consistent throughout my career. So it felt like, once I got picked up by Evolve, it was like, okay, so I guess I'm probably actually going to get the job at some point, so I better not screw this up. But you can't count your chickens before they hatch, and you can't ever get comfortable or just expect that things are going to come to you. You still have to grind and earn absolutely everything. And on a moment's notice, everything can fall apart. I had just finished a show in Los Angeles. I had gotten on a 6 a.m. flight from LA to Vegas and Vegas to Detroit for an Evolve spot. And between leaving Los Angeles and getting to Vegas, I got a phone call and they were like, go home. I was like, okay, cool. Well, are we still doing all the Mania stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, of course. I was like, all right, cool. Nope.
Nope, none of that.
And then more and more, it was like, people started asking me, like, is Evolve closing? And I was like, what are you talking about, is Evolve closing? Because, I was the very last person that was hired by the company. And I'm a referee. So I'm about as low on the totem pole of notification as it gets. And I get it. I'm not upset about it. But yeah, I found out that Evolve closed through Twitter.
Yeah.
So that was rough.
Slightly less heartbreaking than getting a fax, I guess.
Yeah. But that being said, eventually the world is going to come back to some sort of normalcy. I'm still very heavily involved with GCW. Obviously, I went with them to Tokyo in February and got to do a week of shows there, which was, I could have stopped at the end of that,
It's an incredible experience.
My last night there, I reffed in Kurikan Hall.
There's a lot of wrestlers in the United States. There's a lot of wrestlers in the United States that would like to go to Japan, let alone referees.
Yeah. It was a very, very amazing, life-changing, humbling experience, and it's one of the best things I've ever done with my life. I've done a lot of traveling, like before I ever even got involved in wrestling. I've been to a bunch of states and a few countries and stuff like that, and this was 100% the best trip I ever went on.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So as far as what are my goals going forward, I still would. I want to referee WrestleMania. I want to do the main event of WrestleMania in front of 100,000 people someday. If I get there, that's amazing, and I'll be very grateful. And it'll be because a lot of people have helped me along the way, and because I did the work for a long time.
You said you put yourself out there, and that's what's important.
Yeah. Along the way, like, I'm willing to go wherever I can. Like, I'm still crossing names off the list. I've still got ROH to do. I've still got New Japan to do. I've done Impact. Obviously, I still have AEW to do. Like, so yeah, we'll see if any of those end up happening or not. But right now, I'm not really accepting bookings. I don't think that it's really that safe to be doing wrestling right now. But I don't want to be judgmental of any of my peers or my coworkers.
No, it also depends on where you live in the country and what it looks like around you. There's a lot of factors into running a show, doing it safely. So
that being said, though, I am eyeing okay, when am I coming back? Because I had been offered to do this primetime live stuff with NWA and with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and there's been a few times that I almost went and did it this and then GCW, I almost went and did the Collective, but I didn't really think that it was that good of an idea, even though I fully encouraged them to do whatever it is that they feel is appropriate. There's a lot of people going through a lot of steps to make sure that they're doing things as safely as possible, but still providing this escape from reality for the people that need it, which includes us. It's not just the fans, we need it just as much.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And like you said, as long as you're doing it in a safe manner, I think there are ways to safely have a show. But
absolutely,
but also too, it's your personal choice. If you feel like you need to stay home, shouldn't be anything wrong with that either. And feeling that way, people shouldn't judge you for that. I think you get a lot of pressure sometimes. Not you personally, but I think
Oh no, me personally.
Okay, well, you personally as well.
I'm the founder of Zebra Talk, and I reffed for some really nice companies last year. So even though I'm a baby in reffing and in wrestling, I'm still very, very new. I'm only 6 years in. Unfortunately and fortunately, though, because of the positions that I've put myself in, there's a lot of people who look to me in a pseudo leadership role. And I try to carry that weight appropriately. And I think that, it's expected of me to a certain extent that I get back into the ring here pretty soon. And ideally, I think I'd like to do at least one more show or weekend of shows before the year's over. Yeah.
Hopefully we can do that. And hopefully soon we'll be back to a full slate of shows.
Yeah, right.
So, but all right. Well, like I said, thanks for coming on. I got
Absolutely.
I got my quick 5 segment. I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions.
Five-time WCW champion. Ask me your 5 questions.
5 questions. First question: favorite chain restaurant?
Favorite chain restaurant? Olive Garden. Don't hate me.
All right, listen, we're not judging here. This is just questions. I'm not judging.
I love Italian food. There's a reason I have a belly.
Favorite video game?
The Assassin's Creed series. I was actually playing it when you hit me up earlier. I just picked up on it, and I'm very happy with it.
I'll be honest, I never got into that series of games.
I was a really, really big stealth and assassination game nerd, and I really liked parkour in high school and college, and I've always been obsessed with history. So when I saw the first one, I was like, who made a game for me?
Here it is.
What?
Favorite song to dance to?
I Want to Dance with Somebody, Whitney Houston.
Good pick. Favorite superhero?
I I have 4 for Marvel and 1 for DC.
Which favorite?
Daredevil, Punisher, Blade, and Gambit, and Superman. I love Superman.
Who doesn't love
I've
Superman?
always loved Superman. I'm obsessed. My mom introduced me to Superman when I was a little kid. There's way too many people who want to be edgy and love Batman and all that, or the Joker or whatever. And I'm like, dude, he's the original superhero. Like, yeah. Anyway.
He's Superman. And last, favorite Star Wars movie?
Ooh. I feel like everybody wants to say Empire, but that's just like the knee-jerk answer. And I would argue that, like, though Empire does stand the test of time and it is the best out of the 9 episodes, I think Rogue One really is a better movie.
I love Rogue One.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone would not say good things about Rogue One. I thought it was a really well done movie.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying like people think it's bad. I'm just saying like
I think people do think it's bad.
Rogue One? It's like one of the best Star Wars movies.
I think it's great. I don't know. I've heard bad things about it, but I love it.
I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so like we can have this conversation. But yeah,
this
another
is supposed
time.
to be quick. This is supposed to be quick 5. It turned into a bit longer, but that's okay. Referee Odie Brown. Follow him on Instagram and Twitter. Odie1 Canody.
That's it.
Spell that for me.
If you don't mind, I also have some things that I want to plug real quick. But if you want to spell it real quick, it's ODIE, the number 1, and then KENODI. It's just like Obi-Wan Kenobi, but with D's. Anyway, as we were discussing earlier, a lot of referees have to foot their own bill when it comes to travel. And so through Zebra Talk, I have started a line of merch that is available at prowrestlingtees.com/Zebra Talk, and 100% of the proceeds actually go towards a grant that I created to help referees travel around the world. It's called the Zebra Talk Fund. If you ever want to check it out. This is our original shirt. This is the first one that came out of the box. I still have it. I love it. I wear it all the time. This is our more recent, a little bit more trendy, updated shirt. This is a really, really good seller. And we also just recently added sweatshirts. So got some zip-up hoodies.
Those are nice.
Things are getting real, real cold out there. So yeah, I don't keep any of the profits, not a cent. Everything goes directly into an account that I have other people that have access to it that are keeping tabs on me to make sure that everything's on the up and up. And yeah, once a month we have people submit to have us select someone that can receive a certain amount of money so that they can fly themselves somewhere that they've never been before, so that they can learn from some new people and bring those lessons back to their home. Just
another way you're helping out all the referees out there.
I try.
It's a really cool thing you're doing. Like, you know, I don't think a lot of people would take it upon themselves to help out as many people as you have. So you should be proud of that. And I know you are. But.
I'm really, really proud of that. You know, as far as like all of the, am I a good ref? Do I work for these places? Am I going to be successful stuff? That's whatever. I'm like indescribably proud of all of the stuff that we've done with Zebra Talk, with the fund. Like we've had 2 people that we've already awarded the fund to, you know, Teemu from Finland, he got to fly to WXW for a tryout, and he actually got put on the show that night. And then Adam Kennedy from the Midwest, he used the fund to take himself to the Collective this year and got to ref like half the shows that were on the Collective. So I'm really proud of it, you know.
Yeah, it should be, dude. It's like I said, it's an amazing thing that you're doing. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on and talk to you, because you know you've done a lot. And you can do a lot for my channel too.
What are you talking about?
Give me that bump. I need the audience. I'm getting the Odie bump. No, thanks again. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Same.
All right. What?
That was fun. I enjoyed it.
Stay safe.
You too.
All right. You everyone out there, just another guy talking about stuff. This has been Ref Odie Brown. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram. I will put the links down there. They're not even links. I lost the word for it. Your name. I don't know. Your
name?
Twitter and Instagram screen name.
Yeah, screen name, handle.
Screen name, it just seems old.
Right. It is pretty old.
But
anyway,
street names, they will be right down here, like I put them there. So just check those out. All right. Take care, everybody.